I had the opportunity to go check out the Aime Leon Dore 356, a car that I consider to be one of the finest example 356s that has ever graced the roads of New York City. A perfect road and track vehicle. Having seen this new Aime Leon Dore interpretation really brings this car to the forefront of one of the best Porsches that you've ever seen in your life. The 356 is really tapping into the genesis of the brand. It's tapping into the originality of the brand. And I think that's exactly what Teddy Santis's vision was, in terms of going back into a specific time period when the company was brand new. They were trying to figure out where they fit into this automotive space. Ferdinand Porsche, Dr. Porsche, had been exiled from Germany because of World War II and his participation with developing the Volkswagen Beetle. And that's the 356. It's the first car that was ever developed by Porsche. This is where this car really comes to shine, because it is a blend of not only a people's car, because it wanted to move away from being the people's car. It wanted to be the sports car that could do it all. The sports car that had sporting ambition, it had elegance, it had that heritage of racing. And what did it do? It raced, and it won because of its ability to always maintain that level of endurance over a long period of time. So for me, seeing this 356 in Mulberry Street was definitely a treat. When Teddy brought me into the showroom, into his store, it was one of the coolest things I'd ever seen. It was like, how is there a car just in the middle of a store? It's something that Ralph Lauren had done previously with his cars in his shop. It's like the clothes and the cars, you're bridging the gap. If the car is built to last for a long time, if it's built to last and be structurally rigid, it's beautiful, it's inherently strong, like it's gonna last you a long time, you invest in it, it's expensive, the clothes are gonna also be expensive and last a long time. So it's like having that alignment between both products. Aime Leon Dore clothing is embodying that Porsche spirit of, I have this really good product. It's not cheap, it's expensive, but it's built to last for a really long time. And I think Aime Leon Dore and Teddy and his team did an amazing job in bringing that vision forward. And that's why I like this 356. It's loaded with details that show that this thing is a quality product. And we have to keep in mind, this car was built in the 1940s and 1950s. The first one was 1948 with the Gmund 356, built in Gmund, Austria. And then those cars stayed in production all the way until 1964, with the final version being the 356 SC, before it gave way to opening the doors for the 911 that same year. So the 356 is the starting point for the Porsche brand. And the fact that he went backwards into time, with build number 1 being a 964, build number 2 being a 911 SC with the 3-liter engine, and then the third build being a 356, just tying it all together to make these 3 comprehensive builds, it just makes it a beautiful thing. So let's think about my favorite features of the car. So there's a lot of things that stand out for me, particularly this car being the same color as my car, dark blue. So I saw this car, L347 dark blue. I'm not sure if it's the exact same paint code, but it is a non-metallic dark blue. It could be dark sea blue. It could be Copenhagen blue. It could be a variety of dark blues, non-metallic dark blues that were existing during this period. So depending on under which light you see the car, it all falls under the same color spectrum. But seeing it in a very similar shade to my car made me fall in love with this car even more. It was really a really cool thing to see. And then seeing it with the Liberty plate is like, looks just like my car. Looks like the 911. It was really cool. The blue car at Aime Leon Dore matches my blue car, including the detail about the Liberty plate. Another detail that I liked, the Aime Leon Dore 356 logo in the same font as the Porsche logo, I thought was a very beautiful touch. It was a spectacular touch that really heightened and brought everything into fruition, and just tying the whole package together. The teardrop taillights, I think that was a fantastic thing. Another detail that I liked was the German square weave carpet. German square weave carpet, you see a lot of builds from the outlaw Porsches, people who are building 911s or building 912s. they're implementing the 356 specific square weave carpet into their builds. Well, this car was actually born with the German square weave carpet. The carpet wears at the rate of paving stones. It's just a really good quality build overall. The seat cushions have plaid used in the 1950s as like a racing fabric because it held the driver in place. The wooden steering wheel, all these things, like, right? Like, they used wood because it was the lightest material. And these cars were conceived with the idea of, let's use lightweight materials, because if we use heavy materials, it's going to slow us down on the racetrack. And then the driving gloves, right? Like, everything is tied together. Like the driving gloves, the wood wheel. The reason we have driving gloves was because the wood wheel, in period, when you sat a car under the sun for a long time, that wood wheel would splinter, and the leather gloves, that's like that new glove that they're offering, gloves would prevent you from getting any splinters on the front of your hands. That's the reason driving gloves exist. A lot of people use driving gloves because it's like, ooh, it looks cool, it looks great. I mean, these modern steering wheels, you don't need driving gloves because it's like a leather wrapped wheel, or it's Alcantara, which gives you sufficient grip. But driving gloves were designed to help amplify that level of grip over a wood steering wheel, because the wood would splinter in time. And that was one of the inherent qualities of wood whenever you expose it to the sun. But that's the real reason we have driving gloves. And Aime Leon Dore offers driving gloves with their latest collection for the 356 build that they have in alignment with this car. The headlight covers. I thought the wire mesh headlight covers were an amazing detail. It really ties in this like durability. It's like, we're gonna protect this glass as we're going down the Le Mans straight, the Mulsanne straight. All these little details just bring the build to just a beautiful finish. Like, you're tying in all these parts together, because a car is basically a sum of its parts, but the sum of these parts all being put together make for a spectacular build. Like, no detail was left untouched. Everything was really addressed. And another thing that I really appreciated, the car is highly restored, right? Everything from every nut and bolt, everything from the engine all the way to the roof of the car, everything is restored. But some of the details that were retained that I could really appreciate were the emblems on the car. The glass, for example, the Securite glass. Securite was the official supplier for glass for Mercedes, BMW, and Porsche during this period. So to see the original glass in place on this car, knowing that you're going to restore the whole thing, you could have easily put in new glass, but retaining the original glass from period, I think makes this a spectacular thing. Also, in the interior, there's no Porsche Classic radio, and I think that's a great thing. There's no radio at all. There's just a nameplate that says the brand Aime Leon Dore. I like that, and I'll explain right now. I like it because people got into these cars not for the creature comforts and, like all these different things that you add onto the car to make it more livable, like a living room. And like, radios weren't really in these cars during this time. It was an expensive option, and they were considered add-ons. Like in many of our Porsches, everything is an add-on. So to see a blank plate there, and like, just really a minimalistic approach where it's just a singular focused approach to making the best car possible. And I think that's what this car is. That's what I really love about it. There's no radio, there's no AC, there's nothing to distract you from the task at hand, which is to drive this car as fast as possible. I mean, after all, it is a 4-cylinder, a flat 4, that you could find all the way into the 912 generation, which I'm led to believe that this specific car has the more powerful 912 engine, which makes it a hot rod, and it makes it an outlaw build, which I think is a very good thing. Many of these cars, it's like, you're obsessed with originality, but this car is no longer original. It was restored to perfection. So by having a better engine, in the car, makes it more usable, more livable. I think that's a beautiful thing. Rod Emery, who builds 356 Porsches, John Wilhoit, a renowned 356 expert, a lot of these guys use separate engine cases and they build their own proprietary engines for these cars, because we want to keep these cars on the road. We want them to be used. So by throwing in a 912 engine or throwing in a more modern 964 4-cylinder engine that is created by Roth Sport Motors, that's totally okay, and it's considered to be totally original. If you have the separate, the original engine that was born with the car, the numbers matching engine on a separate stand, that's cool too. But I think the important thing is to use these cars, keep them on the road, and the important thing is usability. I mean, these cars were meant to be driven. Nothing was meant to, sit in the closet or sit in a showroom and not be used. The one thing that makes me comfortable is knowing that this car will be used. It's designed to be used. The owner of this car drives the cars. He loves the cars. He's a car enthusiast, just like I am. Like, you'll never see me not driving my Porsche. As much as I'm very and hyper aware of the value of what these Porsches, especially the air-cooled cars, are doing now in the marketplace. I'm very aware of it, but at the same time, it's like, all right, just go out early in the morning, 3 a.m., 4 a.m., when there's nobody in the road, and, drive as fast as you want and do what you have to do in order to keep the car on the road and running. And, take it to your local show, because that's cool too. But the most important thing is to keep the cars on the road, and that's what's really important. That's the task at hand. But this Aime Leon Dore car definitely blew me away. It was definitely one of the most beautiful cars that I've seen in a really long time.